Yeah. Okay. This is a special edition of Kick It Like Asia. I'm sitting here in the lovely town of Sriracha, right in the middle of Little Tokyo. And I have one guy sitting next to me whose name is Dale, and he's well known inside the Thai football scene. And
that's not me, by the way.
No worries, it's just some girls crying after some Japanese. Dale is sitting next to me, and the reason why we are sitting here is because we want to talk about his team, and we want to talk about Thai football. There is no plan for this record. There were no notes of me, so we don't know where this talk will take us. And Dale is living in Sriracha for a long time, and we are not far away from the place where I have watched my first game in Asia and my first Thai League game at all, because it was here in Sriracha, and it was Chonuri against Samut Songkhram back in 2008, and this lovely guy next to me invited me to the game at that time, and it was a mind-blowing experience for me, which resulted in the end, in that I started the website of Thai football, and later, of course, this lovely podcast, Kick It Like Asia. But now I give the word to Dale. Hi, Dale.
Hi, Sven. Nice to see you again.
Oh yeah, it really has been a while, and it was time for us both to meet. And please, for those of for the listeners not familiar with Thai football, please introduce yourself a bit to the listeners.
Okay, as Sven said, I'm Dale. I'm originally from Oldham in the northwest of England. I've been living in Thailand for 20 years. During that time, I've watched a lot of Thai football. Started off watching the Thai national team. In fact, my first game was March '97. I watched Thailand play South Korea in a World Cup qualifier at the Super Chalasai Stadium in Bangkok.
Was it Super Chalasai?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It wasn't that Asian Games game where they won?
This was the national stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, because I walked. It's my first time in Bangkok as well. I'd only been here about 3 weeks, I think, and I'd caught the bus up to Ekamai. My friend who didn't come with me but was giving me advice, he said, when you get to Ekamai, walk outside and you'll get a taxi. Now, this was pre-SkyTrain, pre-underground, so Bangkok was even worse for traffic in those days. So what I started to do is I started to walk from Ekamai, and in the end, I finished up walking the whole distance of Sukhumvit from Ekamai to the stadium. And that was my first experience in Bangkok. My first experience of Thai football, and it was like you. It was just thoroughly enjoyable. Not like anything I'd ever experienced before, really. Growing up watching the game in England.
Yeah.
That's when I got interested. Started to follow the Thai league such as it was in those days, which wasn't particularly easy because all the teams were based in Bangkok.
But by that time you didn't have a team. You were just watching the game.
Yeah, I was just wanting to watch football. Because, like I say, I'd grown up watching football. It was part of my heritage. So when I moved out here, that was one of the things that I was determined to carry on with. And it was quite frustrating finding out that the league was only confined to the capital. So really, I started by watching the national team. I went to watch them as often as I could. And fortunately, the following year, '98, was the Asian Games, which were held in Bangkok. And Thailand did really well. Peter With was the coach. So again, it was quite a great time to be here.
But that was the time when Thailand have beat South Korea.
Yep, I was at that game at Rajamangala. That was one of the first games played there. My memory's a little bit fuzzy because obviously at that time I didn't have any way of recording it. I didn't really have anybody to relate it to. I had a couple of friends from work who I used to go with. But I suppose we didn't realise the significance of it at the time. I was at Rajamangala, and I'm willing to be contradicted here, but I'm sure the first game at Rajamangala was against Qatar, and it was abandoned because there was a mass brawl with both teams involved. It was an Asian Games warm-up.
Oh, okay.
Because the stadium was
and the
built.
Thais have played Qatar later after they have beat South Korea.
I'm sure it was Qatar. I could be wrong. It was some Middle Eastern side though. I'm pretty certain. And whether it was the first match at Rajamangala or not, I can't be sure. But it was certainly one of the first because that stadium was built for the Asian Games. And I say there were about 500 people in the crowd. And the game was abandoned because both teams got involved in a brawl.
Yeah.
And this would have only been a few weeks before the Asian Games started. And then of course the big night was the quarter-final against South Korea, when the 9 men of Thailand managed to win, which was incredible. I mean, in those days, I think the capacity was something like 60,000.
Yes,
there must have been 80 in there that night. It was just magical. It was a wonderful night.
Yeah, there's still some video material existing of this game. I can put the link to the YouTube video into the show notes, so you can watch it. And it's really, that game was one of the finest hours in Thai football,
without a
when
doubt.
they beat actually a World Cup side of South Korea 3-2. 3-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3-2.
With 9 men.
Yeah, with 9 men, and the long distance shot from Donghatum Ongtra.
I can't remember. I remember the sendings off, and I can remember the night.
Yeah, it was
the details are a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know why I didn't go to the semi-final. I think I probably was working or couldn't get a ticket. I've no idea why, but they lost. They lost in the semi-final. But I think the quarter-final was the game to be at, without a doubt.
So,
and I've still got the T-shirt.
Oh yeah, at any occasion you are showing this T-shirt on Twitter, and I really find it completely ugly compared to the ones today.
Oh yeah, the ones in those days were awful. I mean, the first one I bought at that first game, the World Cup qualifier, was blue and red, and it's got a map of Thailand on it.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that looks like a tower.
The one from the Asian Games is even worse. It's sort of blue and red, and there's all sorts of strange squiggles on it. They weren't particularly pleasing on the eye, those shirts.
Absolutely. But talking about the national team, over the past years, you have somehow lost the interest. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think what it is like I was saying, when I first came, I wanted to be involved and I wanted to go and support a team. And Chonburi didn't exist. There was nothing happening locally. So the national team were the logical side to follow, really. That was the only way you could get to see live football. And then once Chonburi came into existence and the league took off, that became my priority. So I now focus more on my club than the country.
Of course you did. But I remember the times in about 2009, 2010, 11. You were even following and watching the national team, but in recent years it has dropped.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the reason is, to be honest. I think it's.
They're playing good football.
They are. I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that it's become harder to get tickets. There's more of a demand. In the old days, you could literally just turn up, get a ticket, or when I started going with Chonburi, the fan club would buy the tickets. So you'd go on the bus with the other fans, and you'd have the match ticket, and it was all pretty straightforward. And I think now, and without getting too controversial, the new ticketing arrangement, selling tickets to, or not selling tickets to non-Thais via the official Thai Ticket Master.
Thai Ticket Master. Thai Ticket Major, yeah.
Thai Ticket Major. Has put me off somewhat, I must admit. But yeah, I mean, I'll still go. I still watch the games on TV. I still take an interest. But yeah, my club is far more important now.
To explain what Dale said regarding the non-Thai tickets, is that there is a new regulation when Thai Ticket Major or the Thai FA is selling the tickets via Thai Ticket Major channel, that foreigners, no matter whether they are expats, residents living in Thailand, are now only allowed to buy tickets for the away end and not for the Thai end or for the home end, so to say. Which is, and in this point, we both agree that is a bit racist. Not even a bit, I mean it is racist, so to say. And this is a very bad move from the Thai FA, and I'm not even sure whether they are aware of and how much intentional this move was, because I think maybe the Thai FA, it's either they just can't be bothered, or they just don't know really how many foreigners following the game in Thailand, the Thai game in Thailand, and how many of them doing a lot of work, having blogs, having websites like you, like me, informing about Thai football in several languages, no matter German, English or whatever. So that's why I'm not sure they're really aware of it, or, well, as said, maybe they just can't be bothered with.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's had any... I mean, this is online. If you try to buy online, which was never a problem before, they've now introduced this where obviously you've got to have your Thai ID card.
Yeah.
And there are obviously cases of foreign fans having tickets bought for them by Thai nationals. I don't know if anyone's ever actually tried to queue up at one of the outlets to buy a ticket, and if so, what experience they've had. But like Sven said, for me, I think what the big issue is that, I mean, I could get a ticket no problem. I've got lots of Thai friends. My wife's Thai. It wouldn't be an issue. But for me, now on principle, if I'm not able to buy a ticket as myself, then I won't do it. I think for me, if they're not happy to take my money off me for who I am, then I'm not really prepared to buy a ticket. I wouldn't give them my money under any circumstances whilst this is in operation. And like you say, you don't know what the reason is, whether it is something sinister or whether it's just an ignorance of... But even so, I mean, you know, I made a point of going on the English FA website after the Thais announced this, and the contrast was marked. You know, you had, okay, away fans had to buy tickets for the away section, which is normal, but the England home ends were open to anyone. You know, they weren't asking for passport details or ID cards or DNA testing, anything like that. So I think, yeah, while they have this policy, I'm not going to buy a ticket.
What you talking about the national team? You still fancy the coach of the national team? Who was coaching Chonuri for 1 year?
Yeah.
And you're really sad that he hadn't been given a real chance.
Yeah, I always maintain he wasn't given a chance at Chonuri. I think one of the things that about our club is that it's very tight-knit, which in a lot of respects is quite an admirable thing. We're very loyal to certain players, loyal to coaches, but sometimes that can backfire and it can be quite a negative thing. And I think Zico, when he was employed, he was very much an outsider. When things weren't going well, you could sense that, and I've not really experienced this before here, certain sections of the crowd were turned against him. And I just think it's a shame, because I could see, even though he was still learning his trade, and having spoken to a couple of coaches as well who'd seen him working, who'd seen him in training, and also spoken to a couple of the players who'd worked with him, he definitely had potential, and I just don't think he got a fair crack of the whip at Chonburi. And I mean, I'm not sure how the club management feel about him now, but he's obviously fated as a national hero in a lot of respects. And,
of course.
That's kind of.
And I mean, if you look back, I think he came to you after he, if I'm right, he was coaching Chula before, and the way of football he was letting played at Chula was, as far as I remember, almost identical to the way of football he is now playing with the Thai national team.
Yeah.
So very offensive.
Probably with not
offensive style,
quality players,
short passing, and so those basically were the first sign of what kind of play Sigo want to see of his team. But I remember also the season with Chonburi, and the football compared to the one he had played with Chula was not the same. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think we as a club were going through a transitional period. He was still learning his trade, and obviously, I think being at Chonburi as opposed to Chula, he had a far higher profile. I mean, I think Chula had just come up, hadn't they, the season before? I think it was their first season in the Premier League when he was there. Am I right? Did he get them promoted?
Oh yeah. He got them promoted.
And so I
think he had to leave halfway the season or something.
I think obviously because at that time, believe it or not, we were probably still the best club, the top club in the country. So there was a lot more pressure on him. He was under a lot more scrutiny, and if things weren't going well, then the criticism would be a lot greater. And I think at Chula he had a lot more freedom. He was able to experiment. And like I said, within Chonburi as well, I think you've got these factions who are quite loyal to the club, and maybe one or two people didn't quite accept him. And it was certainly true of people in the crowd. I remember probably the first argument I ever got into with a Thai fan was sticking up for him after a game once. They were screaming all sorts at him. I think we'd drawn at home against a team we were expected to beat, and I just said, what do you expect? He's doing his best with the players we've got. Just you can't expect miracles. And I just think if we'd have shown a bit of patience, like we have done with certain other coaches and players over the years, we would have reaped the benefits, as we're now seeing with the Thai national team. He would have proved himself. He would have, established himself at a top club, and in turn that would have attracted better players. And we can only speculate on what would have happened. But I'll stand by that. I don't think he was given a fair chance. They were quick enough to get rid of him, and it was a shame. And I hope they regret it.
So, when have you started to follow Chonburi?
It would have been, in the first season that they played in the Pro League would have been 2002, and I was coming to the end of my own career, such as it was. I used to play in the Bangkok Casuals League. And he crossed Schwartz with Robert Procureur on many occasions.
He's a name in Thai football for those who don't know.
So I was still playing, but not as quick as I was, and I was looking for local football. I used to buy a Thai football magazine, and in the back they used to have this tiny little fixture list of games that were on, and at that time I was learning to read Thai, and I was able to work out that they had a team in Chonburi. So I set off one Saturday when I thought there was a fixture on, and I rode up to Chonburi on my motorbike to where I thought the ground was, and because the only ground I'd ever seen in Chonburi was the one on the main Sukhumvit Road as you approach the city centre. Of course I got there and there was no one around, and so I had a bit of a drive round, and I asked one or two people, and nobody had an idea nobody had a clue. So, and then purely by chance, I found the stadium, which was at that time the one next to the sea, the municipal stadium. And there were a few people milling around, so I guess, this must be it. I didn't know what to expect, I had no idea, and I just parked the bike up, went in. There must have been about, I don't know, if it made 3 figures, I'd be very surprised. But there was a game of football on, and I watched it, and then I got chatting to someone in the crowd who could speak reasonable English, and he sort of told me when they played, and it was every Saturday, whatever, 4 o'clock kickoff. So I think I went once or twice more that season when I wasn't playing. The following season I did the same, and then I think it was 2004 they moved to Assumption because the club has got historical links with Assumption College in Sirachar, which is literally 2 minutes from my house. So that was the first...
literally 2 minutes from where we are sitting right now.
Indeed. Which is not in my house, by the way. I don't want any of you to think that, this noise is and they started playing there, and that was more convenient for me. I managed to persuade a friend from work to come along. And so we used to go I think it was every Sunday. We'd stop off at the local 7-Eleven, stock up on beer, just go and sit in the main stand with 100 other people and watch the football. I mean, we had no idea what was on the horizon. And then the following season, I think 2004, we went to all the home games. Following season, 2005, again we went to all the home games, bar one, which they played the day before without telling anyone, which still sticks in my craw. And that season we were lucky enough to get promoted. We went up from the Pro League, and we travelled up to Korat for the last game of the season. We had to win the last game.
Was it Korat Stingray that time?
It was Korat Stingray. It was the army base pitch in the centre of the town. So we went up on the Saturday, stayed overnight, watched the game on Sunday, had possibly one of the shortest celebrations in history before navigating the 5.5-hour drive back in order to be up for work the following morning. So that was it. That was basically my introduction. Like I say, at the time there was no indication of what was going to happen next. I mean, we were literally sitting there in crowds of 120 people watching what to us was really Sunday morning.
By the way, in Germany we say wie spät ist es? So what is the clock saying? And by that we mean, of course, not the clock. We mean how empty your beer is, Dale. How empty your beer is.
It's almost empty.
Almost empty.
It's
almost wonderful. Empty. So we will pay our bill. We will swing our asses on a motorbike, Dale's motorbike, and then we will move the place here. To some quieter place, and we hear us in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we have moved a bit further down the road from the place we were before, and Dale actually is getting us some more beer, and in a small mom and pop shop where I used to hang out a lot. In the past years, because this mom and pop shop is very close to the Sirachar stadium, and this small shop has some seats outside, and I used to sit there with Sirachar FC supporters after the game and enjoyed some after game beer, but also beside it I've met the fans and talked to them. Dale is back, and he got us 2 big chang.
And they're a lot cheaper than at the other time.
Oh yeah, of course. That's probably the price you have to pay for a bar where people under 18 are not allowed to get in. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
You've locked your bike?
Yep.
Okay. So, have to try how to do it with the mic in a way that we are both to be heard and can still drink our beer meanwhile. That's maybe like this one. Okay. So, okay, you are holding the mic, and I'm holding the smartphone.
It looks a bit odd if anybody's watching.
No worries, you're in Thailand, so
Wouldn't be too sure. This is Sriracha, not Bangkok.
Oh yeah, true.
Any kind of odd behaviour is frowned upon.
It has changed so much in Sriracha. It has seen the new buildings around here. Very little, lovely small town, and while we're talking about changes, we left off before when you were talking about 3 digits attendance figures.
Yep.
And now probably if Mueang Chong would play Buriram, probably could fill the Rajamangala.
Yes, yeah. Although interesting enough, and I need to stress this point, that last season the 2 biggest attendances both involved Chonburi. Buriram's highest home gate of the season was against us, and Mueang Chong's highest home gate was against us.
So
there's still a draw.
Yeah, as you address, you haven't seen that coming about 15 years ago.
Oh no, there was no way you could have envisaged what has happened. So I used to go with my mate Ian. For us, it was just a nice Sunday afternoon. Like I say, have a few beers. The closest I can compare it to is that it reminded us both of county cricket matches in England, which for those of you who know are played sort of during the week when everyone's at work, from 11 till 6:30, and again you get very few people turning up, and then the occasional ripple of polite applause will ring round the ground, and that was very much the case. But it was just nice. It was just a nice experience.
But to be fair, it's, following Thai football, going to games in Thailand is still a nice experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just bigger, but it's still
Although if we get hit by one of these motorbikes, I might not be doing much more of it.
It's like, it's still an incredible experience because it's so different to what we used to be, what we used to in Europe.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, I don't know if people are aware of this, and the season that we won the Pro League, which was 2005, the Thai Premier League, in an effort to try and garner support and get more people interested, used to stage the games in different towns and cities around the country. So for that one season,
that's what the road
roadshow season. So they'd pick a weekend and then they'd go off to somewhere. I mean, they came here. They came to Sriracha. I saw a couple of games in Sriracha, a couple in Chonburi.
2 Farangs in suits with bags. Jesus Christ, how Sriracha has changed.
So I mean that's what they did that season. I think a lot of the games were still played at Super Chalasai and the hockey stadium next door. But they would go to places like Ratburi, Sriracha. They came here. I think Suphanburi was one of the towns they visited, Chonburi, and play the games. Like you'd have 2 games on a Saturday, 2 games on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Obviously, in order to get people interested, and it was only with our subsequent success. I mean, our first season in the Premier League wasn't anything particularly memorable. I mean, it was probably more remembered for the fact that we got to the Singapore Cup final. But obviously, winning the league in 2007, we're in.
We're in, almost.
We're in.
Ha! Sneak in.
You might be able to squeeze through there, Sven. I'm not sure I
could do that. Oh, I'm not sure you can.
Had to breathe in.
Just in case you're wondering where we were sneaking in, we were sneaking in to the to the new Sriracha Stadium, which was built in 2010, 2011 something.
Yeah.
And we both have share some nice memories with the stadium. And I remember one occasion Customs played here. And now national team player Mika Chonuri from Bangkok United played for Customs that time. I still miss this place, I have to say. There were some really nice games here, and we enjoyed many beers. Great, yeah, floodlights out, but you can't see it, unfortunately. But we are in the stadium, not in the ground yet. We are still behind the main stand, so the gates to the stadium probably closed. I'm picking off what you said. What you said last is what was it? Hey,
I was just saying about that our
beers, right?
yeah. Just saying about our title win in 2007 was really the catalyst for other provincial teams to realise what could be achieved.
Oh look, we can have a skip there.
Oh, we can. That's perfect. And I think that really is what started it, and got the game outside of Bangkok, got it away from company teams and teams connected with the armed forces or the police. And it was absolutely no doubt that our success that year was responsible. And again, we introduced quite a lot of things like the marketing. Buying replica shirts wasn't that easy. Prior to that season, we had a club shop. We made some scarves ourselves. There's the guard dog.
Oh yeah,
he's a big fella.
And we just thought we found a nice, quiet place there.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay. That's really when things started to change.
But as with everything, mostly things change, and how to say, some front runners get forgotten, or they just can't hold the pace. So it's with Chonuri FC 10 years after the title. So how do you see the current situation of Chonuri, and what had brought the club to the situation right now? Cutting the budget, not signing big names. So where do you see compared? I mean, for Chiang Rai, Buriram, Muang Thong, of course, at Muang Thong this SCG and Siam Sport behind, but for example, you could do the same and get a big company behind. But so how do you see the past 10 years, and what have led to the downfall in some ways of Chonuri?
It's probably a variety of things. I mean, as you know, Sven, we used to, in fact I think it's how we met, on the old Thai football message board, and I'm on record not only on there, but I was once interviewed on ESPN Star Sports and said pretty much the same thing, where my concern at that time, and it sounds ridiculous now, but I'm sure Sven will back me up, is that it was true. I couldn't see anyone competing with us. It looked like we were going to dominate forever. We were far and away the biggest club in the country. We had supporters from all over. We had the marketing side all sewn up. We were successful on the field. It didn't look, and I was worried. It's there in black and white, and I've got recordings of it, of me saying that I'm concerned that other clubs are going to fall so far behind that we're going to dominate for years. Now, obviously, with hindsight, you can see how people sort of latched onto the model that we'd created, and with a little bit more spending power, have been able to take it to the next level. I think in our case, which was your question, there are a number of reasons why we've fallen behind. I think one, and this is one that sometimes gets overlooked. I think that certainly when Chonuri started to be successful, we were attracting supporters from all over the country. Now,
and by the time Chonburi was called something like everyone's second team.
Or everyone's first team in most cases. And I think as well, what you have to remember is that Chonburi is only a small city. It's not a large place.
But the province isn't that small at all.
The province is fine, and we were getting fans from all over the province. What has happened in recent years is I've noticed people who used to support Chonburi will now support their hometown teams. I see people who used to go to the game week in, week out, who weren't necessarily local but followed Chonburi because it was their local team, who've now aligned themselves with their hometown team. So you see people supporting Buriram, you see people supporting Suphanburi, you see people supporting Chiang Rai, who before used to come to watch Chonburi. Alongside that, when the club management in its wisdom decided to sort of invest in clubs like Sirachar and Pattaya United, it diluted the fan base. You had this now suddenly you had three clubs within such a small radius, whereas before you had one club in the whole province.
But the funny thing is that your club basically was responsible for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was a mistake. I'll say in my defence, I said at the time, this is wrong. We should just be concentrating on ourselves, not getting involved in all this other business. We got a little bit distracted. We sort of got behind these two other clubs. We introduced the Chonburi FA, which was, I think that had a lot to do with without going into too much detail, the AFC was involved in that. And we sort of took our eye off the ball. Now, while we were doing all this, other clubs were starting to get their act together, and they overtook us. And I think we spread ourselves too thinly. I think, without going into too much detail, certain finances are now no longer available to us that were available at the time. Which again, you when you follow Thai football, you realise how closely aligned it is with politics. And I think that's really where it started to go wrong. It was a combination of all these things, and then obviously once you get left behind, it's difficult to catch up again now because there's so much money being poured into the game.
Yeah,
Buriram clubs.
By the way, Buriram just announced their budget for this coming season is 350 million baht, which is the highest budget ever have been announced in Thai football. So that's just, and Chonburi just have cut down the budget from 120 to 100 million for the season. So just as comparison.
But again, Buriram didn't exist back then, so it was hard to imagine. I mean, I can remember in some sort of context.
Well, I think Buriram FC at least was existing. I think they've been founded 2009 or something. But at the same time where many province clubs have been founded. Yeah,
I mean, I think to put things into context, and we talked about Sirachar before. The season that they came up from Division 1 then, I think it was called Division 1. They came up from Division 1 to the Thai Premier League. There were
2008, because the day after our game, Chonburi against Samut when I have met you the first time.
Yeah.
The next day we've been to another game. It was Sirachar against Chanthaburi, and Sirachar celebrated their promotion to the TPL.
I think they'd gone up the week before, hadn't they? So it was like a promotion party. But I remember the two games that season against Muangthong United. When Muangthong came down here to play at Assumption, they didn't bring any supporters. There were no away fans, and I remember at the time being absolutely surprised by that. I'd seen them a couple of times on TV, and they looked like a really good football inside. When they played here, they beat Sirachar. They were head and shoulders above anyone else in the first division. They were better than most teams in the Premier League. They didn't bring any fans. We went there for the return game, and there were 2 bus loads of fans went from Sirachar, and we outnumbered the home fans. And this was at what's now the SCG, is it called now? I'm not so sure, they keep changing it.
SCG, yeah, they just renewed the contract
and in those
for 5
days,
years.
it had one grandstand which went the length of the pitch and beyond. It was like an old
We're
race.
talking about the SCG stadium in his old form, which basically was just a pitch and not a stadium as it is right now.
Yeah, it had the one grandstand that went the length of the pitch and beyond by about another 50 yards. It was like an old racecourse stadium, and the rest was just fields, and the pitch was there. And like I say, so there must have been 70 of us maximum, and we easily outnumbered the home support that day. Both teams went up, and then obviously Mungtong got the investment and started to build.
Yeah.
The ground went up, and within 2 years they were the biggest biggest club in Thailand. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I mean, what did you say? 2008, wasn't it? So 2008. That's less than 10 years ago.
I think Mungtong won the first title in 2009.
Did they win it that season? 2008 was PEA, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was PEA.
The last day.
Yeah, I think it must have been 2009.
Was it the first season they were up? Because I think they won.
They
went straight up. Didn't
yes.
They went Division 2, Division 1,
yes,
Thai Premier League. Three
went
in a row,
up to
I think.
TPL and straight won it. Yeah. So, but you said once you fall back, it's difficult to catch up. True, but Chonuri FC has been one of the first sites installing an academy system, and yet there's still no player who have come true big. I mean, many players have come through the academy, but there were no
70% academy players for this season. Yeah, that's true. But again, I don't know too much about the academy. I've heard things. I've heard independent reports of what goes on. People whose views I respect, and they haven't actually been that impressed with what they've seen. I've also had people make similar comments about the first team training sessions. Now, I don't know. I can't comment because I've not been there. I've not seen it. But it is quite telling when you get people making these remarks, because you would expect them to have invested in the proper coaching, because they've spent a lot of money and there is a big setup. We were there for a friendly a few weeks ago at the Physical Education College, the IPE, which is in the north of the city, and they've invested. They've got lots of nice new facilities. But again, I'm still not sure about the quality of coaching, what kind of advice these young players are getting, diet, all these kind of things. One of my...
And isn't it telling that in the past years, Coach Heng was overlooking the academy?
Yeah.
And he was coach of Chonuri, of course, was overlooking the academy, and is now the technical director of the Thai FA.
Yeah.
So,
read into that what you will. I'm not saying anything.
Okay.
But I will say, just remember who was coach in that infamous game when Thailand were trying to lose the game against. Who was it they were playing? When both teams were trying to lose to avoid Vietnam in the semi-final.
That was at
Indonesia?
I think it was in Indonesia. It was during the Suzuki Cup, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
But no, it's like I said, there's a lot of reasons for us falling so far behind. And at the moment, there just seems to be a bit of a malaise around the club. There doesn't seem to be that drive, that
you had a low in attendance last season, right?
And some of those attendance figures they were announcing were a long way off the mark. I remember games. Chiang Rai United sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, I'd say there were less than 2,000 people in the ground that day, and they still gave it. And even allowing for season ticket holders who might not have been there, the crowd they gave was something like 4,500, and it was way off. And again, if we start off badly this season, I mean, obviously we've got a very tough opening fixture. We don't know what the next 4 or 5 are going to be. If we start badly, I think crowds will just drop even more. And it's sad to see, but there just doesn't seem to be within the club, there doesn't seem to be that that desire. I mean, the stadium just looks tatty. It just looks uncared for. It looks neglected. It's not as welcoming as it used to be. We used, again, going back to the beginning, there was a really good relationship forged between the management and the supporters. We were really close. We felt as if we mattered. Now, obviously, as the club grew, that was going to get diluted. I understand that. But now they just don't seem to care about the fans at all. There doesn't seem to be any. There's no discourse. They don't seem to be interested in people's views. They don't seem to treat the fans very well. And I'm not really sure what the reason is for that. It beats me. I don't know. I mean, you can sort of partly explain the playing side of it and the way we have fallen behind, but the way that the club behaves towards their own fans is quite a mystery. I don't really. I don't get that.
You on Twitter you asked about, or you were asking for several ways how to fund Chonuri in adding money to the current budget. One thing came to mind.
I know where this is going.
one thing that came to mind when you were asking the question was, why is your president not selling one of his expensive cars? How would you react to that?
That's not what I didn't expect that. I thought you were referring to a certain Thailand international midfielder.
Oh no!
Did I say that? I don't remember saying anything about his cars.
His cars, yeah.
Don't remember that.
No, that was my thinking. I mean, when you were asking for how to fund the budget,
sorry, I
thought, your president just need to sell some of his expensive cars.
Yes. Sorry, I thought you were accusing me of no, what I thought you were referring to was my how can I put this? We've got a midfielder who's a Thai international. It's called Kriakrit, and for my money, he's the most over. I cannot see what people see in him at all. I'm amazed. He doesn't turn up week in, week out. He's stealing a living, in my opinion. The club seem determined to keep hold of him in spite of reported offers of ridiculous amounts of money. The only thing I can think of that's keeping him at the club is he's a good-looking lad. I don't dispute that, and he attracts a lot of young female fans to the ground. They'll buy T-shirts with his image on. They'll
Nike
buy,
FC.
Yeah, that surely is the only reason. He brings absolutely nothing. You watch him next time we're on TV or you're at a game or whatever. Pay attention to him and see what he does over 90 minutes, and it's very little.
But I think he lacks a form for the last year and overall maybe 1.5. But he was quite good 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, but now.
But isn't it? But I mean, if a player is out of form, isn't it also part of the coaching?
Oh, absolutely.
To get the player back on track.
I agree.
So, which brings us to your club choosing the head coach, and to another hero of Thai football, which is Teatsak Jaiman. So you are not really fancy of him.
I'm not convinced I'm not convinced yet that he's got what it takes to be a top coach. As a player, I'd still pick him. He'd be the first name on my, even though he's 43.
Probably not yours.
He'd still be the first name on my team sheet every single week. He played a couple of friendlies, and it's just staggering to watch how much better he is than the rest of the players. Now, as a coach, that's another matter. Again, I don't know what guidance he's getting. If the club have sort of said, you need to go and you need to learn, we'll get someone in, which is what most clubs would do with a new coach like that. It's difficult to tell. I mean, he was a great player, still is a great player, but obviously great players don't always translate into great coaches. I'd like to think he will in the future. I'd like to think that he'd be able to turn his playing ability and his experience into being a good coach. At the moment, I'm not convinced. I think it'd be useful if the club did bring someone in to work alongside him, someone who's got that experience, someone who can guide him, someone who can help him, someone who can get the best out of him, therefore enabling him to get the best out of the players. I think he's well respected within the game, not just in Thailand but within the region, so I don't think he'd have any problems in attracting someone to the club who could fulfil that role. But time will tell. I mean, he's a smashing bloke. But again, that doesn't always mean you're going to be a good coach. I think we should stick with him. I think we should give him another season.
I think also, if you're saying that, I think if you look at Patrick at the beginning of last season, he didn't really look that happy. If you look at him at the end of the season, he gives us a completely different picture. Yeah. He looked more convinced. He looked more into being a coach than at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he's certainly. You're right. I think you put it very well there, Sven. He didn't look happy. But again, he was new to the job. It was something that was probably. I mean, I don't know if he was expecting to be offered the role. Maybe he wanted to carry on playing. I don't know. But like I say, I would get someone in to work alongside him, and he could attract pretty much anyone, I think, to come to the club just as to be there.
Yeah.
Now, whether we can afford it, we could afford it if we sold a certain player, but I think that's what we need to do. Yeah. I mean, again,
the point is, also you got 50 million for Pokal.
Yeah.
Right. So the question is, where does the 50 million go?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I genuinely wish him well. I hope that in 5 years' time he's winning titles and with us preferably. But I just hope he does. I think we should. I think we should give him time. We'll see. I'll yeah.
Well, good. Taking the lack of the battery of my smartphone, and we were already talking for 52 minutes. I maybe give us 8 more minutes. We have 1 hour. That's okay.
That you can edit down into a nice 5 minutes later.
I can edit down to 5, yeah, but that would be less fun and much work. Any other words, thoughts on Thai football at the moment? I know there are some certain points we don't agree. For example, just not from the English point of view. How do you think the new Thai FA administration is doing? I know that you don't like a lot of things they are doing, but what do you think, or how are they? So, for example, in transparency. I mean, they are obviously publishing figures. They publishing memos of meetings, which we haven't seen before. So, what's your opinion on this compared to the Beyrich administration?
Oh, I think it's a lot better. I mean, I still think it has a long way to go. It's. I mean, this could be a podcast all on its own, couldn't it? I mean,
of course,
when you deal. I mean, there's so many other things to take into consideration here. You culturally and historically and all the rest of it. It's difficult. I think, like you say, we don't agree on everything because I think that comes from the way we approach things from our own background and our own experiences. I come from England, and again we were saying this before we switched on the microphone. I have genuinely, and this is not me exaggerating, I have genuinely played in English Sunday morning pub leagues that are better run than the so-called Thailand Premier League or whatever name they've given it now. And that is true, and I'm sure a lot of people, certainly people of my age and possibly even younger who've got those experiences in England, will agree, because we have. To us, it doesn't seem that difficult. Now, you come at it from a different angle, and obviously the Thai FA have got their own way of doing things. It is a lot better. You can't compare it with the previous regime. And again, as with Turtsack, I'm just hoping 5 years down the line, it will be a lot better. They've got a lot to learn. Now,
I'm really, to be honest, I'm really hopeful that this will be the case, because you can talk about Somyot, who is the FA president. He openly went on and said, "I have no idea about football," when he started his job last year. But he obviously learned quickly, and he learned a lot, and is now trying to improve things, be it youth leagues, be it new national training center with more pitches than available in Nong Chok, which was built with FIFA money. I think these are all good signs. Now, the league again has changed the name, the league again has changed the logos, everything. Just basically to get rid of the old stuff, which is pretty common in Thailand. I mean, it's like if there's a new owner of a club, then he gets rid of the old logo and he gets a new one and stuff like that. So I think for the next... Oh, well, sorry, that was just a push notification of my beloved football club, of one of my beloved football clubs in Germany.
I actually thought we were being hacked then by the Thai FA. I thought they've been listening into every word we've been saying.
Well, he has 3 more years to go. And yeah, I'm hopefully looking forward to the coming 3 years. But what I worry the most is what will happen after the next 3 years with the next election. If we have a new president, if we have a new administration, what are they going to do? Changing the logos again, changing the names again, restructuring the leagues like the new FA is doing right now. And then it's like you need some
consistency.
Yeah, consistency to make a brand, to make a name, and keep it on. And you have to, even on the Warby, it was that things have changed with league and league names and whatsoever, every logos every second year or every third year, and that's the only thing I worry. If Somyot, former police chief, if he might be called corrupt by someone or whatever, well, it's common in Thailand, so I don't care much, but most important thing for me is what he is doing for Thai football, and right at the moment, he seems to be really a good fit. Something what we haven't expect a year ago.
Yeah, I mean there are signs that they're moving in the right direction. I mean it's like anything. If he's given time, then yeah, it could be that in the long run things will work out.
And it might. I mean, it speaks words if.
I mean, it's hard to imagine. You mentioned the elections in 3 years' time. It's hard to imagine that if he doesn't mess up royally, if he continues to be, at least be steady, then there's no reason why he can't carry on.
I think so.
Because I don't think there'll be any challenges. I mean, it was pretty obvious that the last regime had to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's even gone beyond the borders.
I just remember a conversation with Winfried Schäfer when he was national coach, and he was asking for something from Warby and asking for a youth league and stuff like that. And the answer from Warby was always cannot. This is something you don't hear from Somyot. He is going out. He was just recently at Paris Saint-Germain. He's looking at things. He's looking after things. And for a Thai, and that's remarkable, he said just recently that Thailand is 10 to 15 years behind Japan, and that they have to start now to do some things and to change the things if Thailand ever want to reach a World Cup. No matter there's a 48 team World Cup or whatever, this joke of a World Cup there. But
64 team, 128 team World Cup.
yeah. So I think he is doing a good job, and so we can just look forward to a nice 2017 season. Dale,
Hope so.
final words. I don't think you say Chonuri now, but one word on Bangkok United. What do you think about Bangkok United and Manu Perking?
What do I think? I think last season they were fantastic. They brightened up a pretty dull season, in my opinion. They were always good to watch. He's an exciting coach. I think he's an honest coach. Whenever I've had dealings with him, which I have on a couple of occasions for my website, he's been absolutely fantastic. I've got nothing but good things to say about him and his club and the way his team plays football. I think it's, again, this is a whole podcast on its own. I think it's just a shame that they're playing where they are and they had to move away from the area where they've been, and they don't get the crowds. I mean, I think people sometimes tend to put too much onus on the crowds. I personally, being a lifelong Oldham fan, I think it's great when a club playing in front of 1,500 people is able to compete and beat the big boys. I don't mind that at all. It would be nice if they were playing in front of 10, 15,000 every week. They're not. I think we should just enjoy them. If they maintain the form of last season, they're genuine title contenders.
So
they were I would say they were the best team to watch last year, without a doubt.
Okay, that would have been just my next question. I think Muang Thong and Tavan and Bangkok United played some kind of similar football, just with the difference that Muang Thong has more national team players to his name than Bangkok United. So you were saying Bangkok United played better football than Muang Thong?
Yeah, last season they did.
Of course, last season.
I think so. They were always entertaining.
So, and
I think,
what would be your call for the 2017 season?
That's a tough one. Buriram United don't have the distractions of AFC Champions League. I think that obviously took their confidence away at the beginning of last season, getting absolutely trolloped, which was fun for the rest. I'm not going to deny it. We all enjoyed that so much, and we enjoyed watching them play catch up for the rest of the season. But obviously they're not going to have that start to the season this year. They've got a tough game, first one, but they've got to be title contenders. I'd like to see Bangkok United up there competing with them. Muang Thong's going to be interesting. Obviously, a lot of their players, as you've mentioned, Thai national team players, they've not had a rest, they've not had much of a break, they've got AFC games, so they may find it tough in that respect.
Where do you expect Chonuri with the heavy spending?
It could go either way, couldn't it? I'm not going to stick my neck out and make a prediction. They could either cash in and romp away with things, or it could all go belly up and they could get relegated. I just can't predict. You don't know, do you? You really don't know what's going to happen. But certainly, if you want my predictions, I'd say Buriram United, Bangkok United, and you've got to say Muang Thong. Even with the distractions, I think they've got a strong squad. They've got the experience. So those three really, probably in that order.
Okay, Dave. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, mate. I've enjoyed
We're closing this talk just now, and we too are going to have one more beer,
which Sven is going to pay for.
Oh yeah, the beer has an elephant, as a cover. So probably know what kind of beer we are drinking. Bye for now. Thank you very much, Dale.
No, thank you. I've enjoyed that.
We see us the next days.
Yep.
Ja, und in der Tat